Hi, I'm Nick Steele and welcome to another one of my video journals. Today I'll be reflecting on my first day of building with Mr. David Pepper and Phillip Budd. We got a lot accomplished and I'm really surprised by all the tips Mr. Pepper had to share with us. So just to summarize what we accomplished on Saturday, we selected our lengths of bamboo, looking for a piece that wasn't split, that was relatively straight, that was wide enough, like the most similar diameter to our reference flute, and that was also like as hard and aged as possible. And it just so happens, like, we looked at what he had in the shop, then a few that he had like set aside for banner posts, then a few that he had sitting outside for a while, and then the last place we looked was in his garage, and there he had a few pieces that were just perfect for what we needed, and he was glad to give them to us, so we're so grateful. Then once I had my bamboo, I cut the one end near the node and cut the other end appropriate length away. I left a lot of space for extra. Then I cut the end near the node again just to square it up, and I was really quite pleased with how that turned out. And the last thing I did was I just sort of used the belt sander to take off most of the nodes so that it's closer to a cylinder. There's still more that needs to be taken off, but that's a little more fine work, and we'll do that a little later on. I was really pleasantly surprised by all of the authentic Japanese tools that Mr. Pepper had to offer us. I'm starting to feel giddy about how authentic our project might turn out to be. He has Japanese knives. It's the kiridashi, which means angled knife, right? Angled knife. His saws are said to cut on the pull stroke, which he claims is how the Japanese set their saw blades. And he has a pumice, or it's actually a limestone powder, that's used to polish Japanese swords, and it's also sometimes used to polish the lacquer finishes on these instruments. Several of my classmates also decided to make bamboo flutes for their final project, but a lot of them encountered problems with the bamboo splitting. But thanks to all the tips that Mr. Pepper had to share with us, that's not going to be a problem for our flutes. And as they say, hindsight is 20/20, and in this case it's 1920 by 1080p HD video, because as I was editing the video that I took on Saturday over the weekend, I was really surprised by a few things. I had thought that I was cutting the bamboo exactly as how Mr. Pepper was cutting it, but after seeing side by side how I was doing it and how he was doing it, I kind of flipped a few things around. Here I am, I'm trying to get a firm grip on the bamboo, but I just can't really seem to really anchor it down, and then it turns out I'd put it on the work table 90 degrees to how he had put it on the work table, and so the way he was anchoring his, there was actually sort of groove on his work table that it was resting in that made it much easier to control. So I wish I had been wise to that as I was working. Second, I also sort of realized that he was cutting the far side of the bamboo, and I was more so cutting the side closest to me. And so because I was cutting the side closest to me, I was actually I'd sort of flipped things around again. And I kept having problems with the saw getting jammed because I was kind of going in at weird angles, when really I should have been going more like this, and cutting the side that was further away from me. As a bit of a side note, when I first was taught how to use a can opener by my parents, I would always see them doing it, and they'd be doing it like a person normally does, but I had just totally flipped that around and I was doing it like this. And I was like, man, I hate using a can opener, it's so awkward. I did that for like 2 or 3 years, and then one day my mom told me, why are you doing it that way? And she asked, because she had never really noticed that I was doing it this really awkward way. And I still can't believe that I just flipped things around so much like that. I was also a little disappointed with my manners. Here, Mr. Pepper is our expert, and he's telling us what he knows from his years of experience. And I keep chiming in here and there with my 2 cents about, oh, I heard my dad said this, or maybe even just interrupting him as he's speaking.
You'd have to just get the right size, but...
Well, what my dad recommended was doing like stepping it up like small drill, drill a small bit first, then bigger, and then use that one last.
What you want to do is
that'll avoid the splitting.
Yeah, actually, just make sure.
Patience, young grasshopper. That's definitely something that I need to prevent the next time that I'm getting a lesson from him or maybe another informant, because it's just very, very poor etiquette. As far as what remains to be done, all we have to do is hollow out the nodes that are on the middle part of the instrument, not on the end. The end stays intact. We'll do that with a drill bit, or maybe by punching it out with a dowel, and then smoothing it out with a rat tail file, or perhaps a dowel with sandpaper wrapped around it. And once that's done and the inside's smooth, we'll continue to resurface the outside, make that nice and smooth and tubular. And once that's all set, we can drill our holes and finish and sort of smooth those out and tune it. And once it's in tune and smoothed out, we lacquer it and bind it, and it's good to go. Walk on the park, right? I also really need to do a lot more research online to see, are there any mathematical ratios that need to be kept? Because since we're making ours slightly smaller in diameter than our reference flute, we can't really just duplicate exactly where the holes are. That might change because of the change in diameter. So I'll need to look that up and really have a firm idea about that before I do any drilling. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for listening, and I'll keep you posted.